محللو أسواق النفط يتفقون بأن الامتحان الحقيقي لأسواق النفط قادم في 5 فبراير المقبل، وهو الموعد الذي يبدأ الاتحاد الأوروبي فيه تطبيق حظره على استيراد المشتقات النفطية الروسية. هل أنتم قلقون حيال أثر ذلك على أسواق المنتجات النفطية عالميا وتحديدا بالنسبة للديزل؟
Well, thank you for having me on El Arabiya. It's always a pleasure to be with you. When the EU passed the ban on crude oil in December, we instituted a price cap mechanism through the G7 and Australia and many other countries in order to make sure that Russian products can continue to be on the market, but restrict the revenues that Putin is getting so that he can't use extraordinary profits to execute his horrific war in Ukraine. On February 5, we're going to have the EU ban on products. The G7 countries and the EU are in discussions on what are the kind of steps that we can do to manage the risk that comes from that. I am fairly certain that we will be able to address the concerns and that the market will be continue to be supplied, and hopefully in a manner in which also the profits to Putin are restricted.
بعض المراقبين توصلوا إلى قناعة بأن وضع السقف السعري للخام الروسي عند $60، وهو سعر قريب مما يجنيه خام اليورال حاليا في الأسواق، قد يدلل بأن الولايات المتحدة وحلفائها يرتبون الأمور لحرب طويلة وممتدة في أوكرانيا. هل هذا استنتاج صحيح؟
No, I would disagree with that quite strongly. Currently, Ural's prices that are for barrels that are being sold on the market are fetching below $40 a barrel. So since the institution since putting together the ban and the price cap, the discount that Russian oil is receiving in the market has actually widened. And just in the last several days, we've had several analysts from around the world, including Bloomberg, saying that the hit to Russia's revenue is quite extraordinary. So I think so far the price cap mechanism is working well to address the two concerns that we have. One is to keep products on the market, and the other is to restrict the revenues. There's a long way to go, and I think that we have to see how things develop. But I would say that so far we are quite satisfied with where things are going and how they've been implemented.
الإدارة الأميركية لم تكن سعيدة بقرار أوبك بلس بخفض الإنتاج بواقع 2,000,000 برميل يوميا في أكتوبر الماضي، ولكن وبعد مرور هذا الوقت وبالنظر إلى الوراء، ألم يكن هذا القرار خفضا استباقيا ناجحا جدا قبيل ضعف الطلب الذي تجسد لاحقا خلال الأشهر القليلة الماضية؟
Look, when OPEC Plus made the decision on October 1 or the beginning of October, we were very clear that OPEC had its rights to make its decisions, but we disagreed with that assessment, with that decision. We stand by our views. We understand that if prices are declining in a rapid manner, then that would result in normally in a review of the policy in OPEC or other countries or other companies on whether or not they should cut production. At the time of the decision, prices were near $90 a barrel. At the time that we are today, prices are above $80, at $83 or so. So we still believe that oil is best priced when the producers still receive a return and can make a profit. We're not against that. But that consumers can still buy the products at a reasonable price. Oil is a critical product and a commodity that has a lot to do with how budgets of countries hold up, how finances of families across the world are affected, and they play into inflationary concerns and concerns over a recession. So allowing prices to go up and to force prices up above $85 and $90 has a tremendous risk to global economic growth, which is what we're concerned about. It doesn't mean that we don't support producers making making a living and making a return. They're entitled to it. But there are limits to what kind of returns are also then causing global economic contraction.
إدارة بايدن تخطط لشراء النفط الخام لإعادة بناء مخزوناتها النفطية الاستراتيجية، وذلك بعد أن سحبت منها نحو 180 مليون برميل العام الماضي. هي تخطط لشراء ما يصل إلى 3 ملايين برميل الشهر المقبل، لكنها ما زالت ستبيع نحو 30 مليون برميل في سبتمبر القادم. أليس هناك تخبط نوعا ما في تلك السياسات؟
So the President of the United States ordered the release of 180 million barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, plus another about 60 million barrels released by the rest of the world, because we were responding to an emergency caused by the war in Ukraine and the reduction in products being sold onto the market. That is why we did that. What we have said, what the President has clearly stated, is that we're not looking at a precipitous collapse of oil prices, and that if prices get to about $70 or so, we would be in the market to purchase some of that oil back to replenish the reserve. We are still planning for that. As you've said, there are congressionally mandated sales out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve for 2023 until 2027. Those are under a little bit of review. So Congress just in the last several weeks canceled the sales from the reserve, from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve for the years 2024 to 2027. Those are barrels that were supposed to be sold that now will not be. And in 2023, by the end of the year, we are still mandated by Congress to sell a certain amount, but I think that's under review as well. We'll see what happens with those barrels as we move forward. So I think this is about long-term policies that have to be reviewed and addressed during crisis times.
الولايات المتحدة صارت تستخدم عقوبات قطاع الطاقة بشكل متزايد في الشؤون الخارجية. يرى عدد من الخبراء بأن الجولات الأخيرة من تلك العقوبات ستشكل نهاية للسوق النفطية العالمية الحرة، وستؤسس لسوق نفطية مقسمة وذات تدفقات تجارية مجزأة. هل علينا أن نقلق حيال هكذا تداعيات؟
No, I don't think there's cause of alarm. At the end of the day, if you're not intending to invade your neighbor, bomb hospitals, murder women and children in the streets, you probably don't have much to worry about sanctions on your energy sector. Where we've instituted energy sanctions have been places like Russia during this war, Iran, which is a threat to this region. They are funding organizations that threaten Saudi Arabia and UAE in this region and shooting their own people in the streets simply for voicing their opinion. So other than that, we have not used energy sanctions much beyond that in these extreme cases. I would also argue that the oil market has never really been a free market. This is a market that is dominated by state-owned enterprises that have political considerations, together with private sector, both publicly traded and some privately held. And OPEC itself is an organization that discusses production levels in order to manage the market. So this is at best a managed market, not a free market. But again, the United States is not intending to use energy sanctions against countries outside of extreme, extraordinary, and rare cases.